Hello and welcome to the Firth of Cromarty on the east coast of the Scottish Highlands.
Famous for featuring in the shipping forecast, Cromarty is about to see some serious high pressure as 7 artists confront this amazing sea view.
General synopsis for the next 4 hours is rising terror, becoming highly competitive later, with outbreaks of occasional panic.
That's just us.
Don't worry, I've got a hip flask. It's the semi-final of Landscape Artist of the Year.
Over 6 exhilarating heats, 48 artists have battled for a place in the semi-final by capturing on canvas some of Britain's most breathtaking scenery.
Really happy. This is like perfect.
And they've conjured up some magical artwork.
Something genius could happen on there.
Now only the heat winners remain.
I'm so happy.
To battle it out for 3 coveted places in the final.
I'm absolutely shocked. I'm still shaking, like, with my hands.
Wow. For an older artist, it's like we've still got something to say. Bring it on.
They're all competing for a sensational prize, a £10,000 commission to paint a scene in Venice to celebrate the bicentenary of the art critic John Ruskin.
To claim the prize, the artists must impress our hypercritical judges, Taishan Schierenberg and Kathleen Soriano.
How do you put yourself into those rigs?
I've been walking around like a spidery transformer.
So it's time to take up their brushes to see which of our semi-finalists can paint their way into the final.
I'm dancing with colour.
The colour whisperer, the colour shouter at the moment. There's not much whispering going on there, is there? In today's semi-final, 4 of our artists are professional. Patsy Moore, Fujiko Rose, Kathy Reddy and Gary Jeffrey.
Since the heat, my sleeping pattern has been all over the place. I've been waking up at 3:30 in the morning and going to bed at 9 at night. I'm so excited.
And joining them are 2 amateur artists, James Murch and David Youds.
Feels amazing to be selected for the semi-final. Today my intentions are to go with my sort of instincts really and just crack on with it.
But our 6 heat winners aren't the only ones to have made it to the semi-final. At every heat, 50 wildcards set up their easels and braved the elements. For 1 wildcard place per heat.
You are our wildcard winners today.
Thank you very much.
With room for just 1 more artist in the semi-final, the judges voted Sue England's painting victorious.
Sue's jumped out, and it was because it was something beyond the surface of the landscape. It had echoes of the day, the pouring rain, the greenness, the edge of the castle, but she'd made something with its own distinct style. And that's what we're looking for, artists who have something to say.
Sue England's painting of Hurstmonceux Castle in Sussex captured the judges' attention and earned her a place in a pod at this year's semi-final.
I don't do a lot of plein air painting, so what I did at Hurstmonceux was quite revelationary to me, and it made me paint in a different way. So, yeah, I feel quite competitive here.
Before the day's competition begins, the artists gather their materials and take stock of the overwhelming seaside view and the unpredictable seaside weather.
The oil rigs add the nice element to what would be a really kind of flat, featureless landscape with the weather. Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to getting into it.
What I really like is all the different components you have on the oil rig. Lines, and angles, just so much going on it.
The view's presenting all sorts of issues, mainly because of the drizzle. I think the key for me is to put my positive pants on and keep them on all day.
Artists, I hope this astonishing oil rig view has got your creative juices pumping, because your challenge is about to begin.
Because it's the semi-final, the judges will be looking for some really special art. As usual, you have 4 hours to complete your work, and your time starts now.
Today's Seascape takes in the Firth of Cromarty. Dominating the view is a group of imposing oil rigs, temporarily moored here to undergo maintenance work before heading back out to the North Sea oil fields.
It's a complicated, dramatic landscape. It's as if we're on Mars or something, and they've got this incredible combination of the man-made, but then also the natural environment that's slowly being revealed by this Scottish weather, where we're going to have 4 seasons in a single day. And I want to see our artists sort of bring those 2 elements together in an effective, fabulous painting.
The obvious thing is the verticals. I mean, there are such strong verticals. So I'm using the canvas in a portrait way.
There's a lot you could paint here, really panoramic view, and I work quite small, so I've got to be kind of brutal and think, right, which bit should I go for? So I think I'm going to go for these 2 rigs with some of the boats in the foreground.
Whilst the artists consider their compositions, Kathleen and Ty consider Kate's latest creation.
Can I show you baby Juno?
Oh, please, yeah.
So,
oh, my goodness, they look so happy. Look at them.
so much more exciting than hanging out with us, isn't it?
Sadly, I think maybe so. But maybe Juno can help us in the final.
Yes, another judge. That's great.
Well, Patsy, you haven't committed yourself yet, have you? Quite.
No, I have 1 vertical line so far.
1 vertical line is a good inspiration.
Do you think they'll be happy with just 1 vertical line?
I don't think so. You might. Professional artist and art tutor Patsy Moore often takes to the 7 Seas to give art lessons on cruise ships. At her heat, she sailed into the semi-final, impressing the judges with her ability to manipulate colour by combining vibrant and cool tones. One of the things you like is water, isn't it?
I do like
and
reflections. Yes. If we don't get any reflections, you might get 1 or 2 in my painting, perhaps.
You might reflect it.
I think the story of the picture is competition, in a way, between the man-made structures and the softness of the landscape behind. So it's finding the balance between the 2 that interests me.
There's so much choice here, isn't there? Because there are little boats, oil rigs, there's a little jetty.
I know, I'm already beginning to think, do I want to do that bit? Or do I want to do that bit? I don't know now. It's a battle.
I panicked a lot last time and I don't want to be panicking so much, so I'm trying to really get the details down in my head and planned out beforehand. How am I going to actually draw the water? What techniques do I want to use to draw the rig? So I don't have this sort of phase.
Professional artist and wallpaper designer Fujiko Rose won her heat with her depiction of the Gateshead Millennium Bridge, distinguishing herself through her signature technique of using white paper and Indian ink, applied by brush and pen.
Fuji, you're using a strange implement. What are you doing?
So I'm just using a ruling pen to apply the masking fluid.
So the masking fluid, it masks the white of the paper.
Yeah, I'll draw and paint over it.
Afterwards, you can peel it off?
Yeah, it'll come right off.
Then you'll have these white marks.
Yeah, it's just like the weeds down the bottom.
Is that what inspired you, the grasses?
Yeah, so it's almost, if you're looking at it from there, and these are
okay.
kind of cutting across.
I get you, okay.
They're not random
I thought there was kind of some
scratches.
cosmic ripples or something.
No. I really love texture.
Well, you've got a lot of weird
and
texture on those rigs.
The oil rig will be just under half of the page. It's going to be quite a close-up of it because I want to get quite a bit of the details of it.
I'm quite intrigued. Looking forward to seeing how this works.
Every opportunity is an opportunity to experiment, so I might experiment with more drawing because a good drawing is the foundation of a good print. It's like if you build a house, bad foundation's a bad house.
Professional printmaker Cathy Reddy gets her inspiration from her agricultural surroundings in County Carlow, Ireland. The effect of her painstakingly detailed monochrome work in her finished lino cut print surprised and delighted the judges.
So you gave us that fantastic circle in the heats, and now we've gone for the rectangle. I mean, what made you decide today to go for that?
Well, the landscape is quite horizontal. I didn't want to do a circle again because I was like a bit of a one-trick pony with the circle, even though I loved it, but I thought I'd give the judges something different.
You are drawing it the way we see. So we're going to see a reversed image.
Yeah, some artists flip the image so that it prints the right way around as you see it. I prefer not to because I believe that's part of the process.
Yes. I mean, the ultimate irony with the lino cuts is that you do this fabulous drawing on top and then you just take it all away.
Yeah, it's all gone.
So when you're going to give us a richness of clouds in the sky, we're going to see reflections on the water.
Yeah.
All in black and white.
All in black and white, hopefully, anyway.
Fantastic. Good start.
I think to go impressionistic on something like this wouldn't really do it justice. It has to have some sort of grittiness to it. When I had to paint the castle in the heat, what went right for me was really building in a lot of colour beforehand and then painting over it, using opposite colours to inject colour into a grey scene.
Professional artist Gary Jeffrey lives in southwest London. Gary only ever paints landscapes, and in his heat at Hurstmonceux Castle, the judges were struck by his complex and unusual use of colour, starting bold and then toning down.
You had a very relaxed approach in the heat. You seemed very calm and just there for a laugh. You managing to maintain that in the semi-final?
Yeah, there's a bit more of an edge to my laughing this time.
What are your feelings about these testaments to man's engineering prowess?
Well, I find them a bit otherworldly.
They're definitely otherworldly, aren't they? So does it fill your heart with joy, or are you like, oh, what am I going to do with these things?
Well, I'm kind of sidestepping it by playing with colour at the moment.
Yes, I can see at the moment they're quite vague, aren't they?
Yeah.
The platforms.
But they're going to have to come into focus at some point.
OK.
I'm dancing with colour. That's where I'm at.
You're the colour whisperer.
I wish I was.
The colour shouter at the moment. There's not much whispering going on there, is there? So all this playing around with colour is because you're scared of what?
Because it's so tremendously complicated, the structure. And I just want the whole thing to sing and just punch you in the eyes.
That is brilliantly bold. I love it.
Places in the final are guaranteed for 3 of today's 7 semi-finalists, and they're nearly 1 hour into the competition.
I'm not happy with what I have at the moment. So I'm just quickly taking a sketch in a completely different angle just to see would that be the right way of doing this landscape justice.
A little while ago, I was panicking. It's beginning to take some form and some shape. Although it doesn't appear to have a lot here, it's had an inordinate amount of thinking about. And that's what counts.
I'm happy with the composition. The water's almost done in the sense of actual drawing, and then I can just focus on getting the details of the oil rig. If I'm too pushed for time, I can get a little creative with it.
I'm feeling the pressure in the sense of the strategy of how I paint this scene. I basically throw myself off the bridge and then hope that I can learn how to fly before I hit the bottom.
Here on the Firth of Cromarty, our 7 semi-finalists have been wrestling with this ominous seascape for an hour. And the ever-changing weather has made painting plein air even more challenging than usual.
It does seem slightly odd now it's stopped raining that I'm suddenly getting an umbrella out. I knew something like that was going to happen.
Despite graduating with a fine art degree, David Youds shied away from a career in the art world. However, in recent years he's been gathering his artistic momentum, and at his heat on Tyneside, the judges were taken with the naive charm of his work.
What's with the umbrella doing?
Yeah, it does seem slightly odd, but it's just to keep the glare of the sunlight off the board, really. But you tend to paint darker when there's light on the board, so it's just to get a more accurate tonal value when I'm putting in the blocks of colour.
So seascapes, are they a normal part of your armoury?
No, it's not often I paint.
Ever?
No.
Never?
I live inland, so it's kind of a bit alien to me. At the minute, the water's quite still, so I'm going to simplify the tone as a whole colour and make tiny adjustments when the light alters. I used to be quite a slow painter, really, but I've learned to speed up a little bit and try and sort of capture those sort of moments.
But does that mean if you're working at speed that we might see more than one work today?
I'm not that ambitious. I mean,
But I hope you are that competitive.
Yeah.
But while some artists are forging ahead, one is playing catch-up.
Something had to change, so I decided to focus on one drilling rig and the mountains and make it vertical and zoom in a lot more into the landscape. I feel like I'm on the right road now.
It's not your normal Firth view, is it? Really? They are odd-looking things, but there's something very beautiful about something that's designed purely for its purpose and with no thought given to aesthetics whatsoever.
Oh, you're sounding so German. Form-following function, yes?
Exactly. Look at them. There's something magnificent about them.
Yeah, my heart goes out to our artists. There's a lot of detail there.
A lot of cross-lattice work.
Nice, yeah.
Yes.
A lot of cross-lattice work. It is menacing as well. It reminds me, is it H.G. Wells, The War of the Worlds, where these tripods kind of come out and sort of attack humanity? There is something about that in their size and their sort of rustiness and alienness. And so I do want the paintings to have that mood in it, because it is strange. So I hope the artists pick up on it.
What are the pitfalls of painting this quite bizarre scene?
The only danger really is getting bogged down in the detail of engineering. There's so much of it there. You could spend weeks drawing them. So they need to find a way of abstracting it and just giving us a sense of these monsters without actually drawing every metal strut in.
The slight bleakness of those structures and this glorious weather.
Yes.
I mean, it feels
wrong.
Well, the weather feels sunny and optimistic and open, and those rusting elephants. It's an interesting contrast.
It's perfect for a semi-final.
Enjoying the protection of the pod for the first time is amateur artist Sue England.
Now, you were a wild card.
I was a wild card, yes.
And you've come through to the semi-final.
I know.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Now, when you're a wild card, you have your own camera, your own easel and everything.
You do.
This is different, isn't it?
It's wonderful. It's like being in a 4-star hotel. Yeah.
So how do you feel about today?
Yeah, it's great. I just wish the light would stay still for a minute and, you know, but that's a common...
Here it comes.
Common problem.
Here comes
here,
the
'cause
sun.
the sun, yeah.
Amateur artist Sue England is a retired graphic designer from West Sussex. The heat at Herstmonceux was her first attempt at painting plein air. But despite the horrendous conditions, her large brushstrokes and loose style drew the attention of the judges.
It is the most amazing views.
Yes, it is. I had no idea.
And how are you feeling about how you're dealing with it? You've made a lot of this water.
Well, I didn't want to put the horizon line quite in the middle, and I wanted to not just be about the rigs.
Now, the rigs are looking very impressionistic. Are they going to stay like that?
Well, probably. I do tend towards the abstract when I paint, so I don't really see things in detail. I deliberately haven't put my vision glasses on, so that actually things are a little bit of a blur, you know, so...
I've got mine on, I can tell you. They look very rig-like, actually.
Thank you.
Because I focus a lot on colour, the biggest challenge for me is really trying to dig into what's there and see what's happening with the colour, because it's still there, it's just very subdued.
Amateur artist James Murch's accomplishment in painting plein air saw him win his heat at Plymouth. His technique of underpainting before creating the light and shade with a combination of horizontal and vertical strokes impressed the judges.
James, you're piling on the paint. How's it going?
It feels like a bit of a panic still. I haven't quite got hold of it yet.
I look at that scene and I want to scream because there's so much detail. And you're quite a painterly, wristy artist. Yeah. How are you going to deal with that? Is that what's making you freak out a bit?
No,
detail.
I'm not really worried about that because I'm not going to put it in, basically.
Oh, OK.
I'm just going to consolidate one block of tone. I still feel like I'm putting all the elements in, and once they're there, I can start kind of shaping them and pushing the paint around, and some things come through that you hadn't planned.
Have you had any happy accidents up to now?
No.
Oh,
okay. A few unhappy ones, I think.
Oh, OK, so that's also part of the panic, is it? Sort of...
Yeah, fighting against making the structures too small. They tend to shrink as you push and pull the paint.
And how are you feeling about sort of semi-final? Are you feeling pressure?
I am feeling the pressure a bit more today, actually, yeah. I want to paint a good painting and I want to win.
I think it's very evocative. Nice one.
Thanks very much.
With the semi-final halfway through, the Firth of Cromarty, with its vast seascape, intricate oil rigs and ever-shifting skies, is really making life hard for our 7 artists.
The thing I'm most worried about is just having enough time to completely carve the lino block and print it. So time is tight because it took so long at the start to nail down what I wanted.
I wish I hadn't put quite so much water in and put more sky and less water, because the water now is pretty boring. It's just horizontal waves coming towards you. There's no shape in it. If I was starting now, I'd do it differently.
I'm really pleased with the overall feeling I've got on the canvas, and I'm really concerned about getting those rigs put in and actually facing down what I've been avoiding. It's about how much to put in, how much to suggest.
I think I'm about the right place at the moment. I can't go too crazy on the detail everywhere, but there's enough time to still add enough to make me happy, I should say.
Our artists have less than 2 hours left to recreate their vista of the Firth of Cromarty. But even halfway through, the landscape is still producing all sorts of surprises.
Patsy, I see you've got sort of yellow in the sea, and it's funny, I didn't see it till you pointed it out to me. I suppose that's what good or interesting painting does, isn't it?
I think it's all about looking and seeing what you find in there. Since the heat, I paint slightly differently, really searching to find something different.
Oh, you're such a painter. No, it's nice. You're such a painter. It's such a nice thing.
One of the things I really like about this work is the way in which you've given us that sort of sense of distance by using the platforms themselves, sort of going backwards. I think that's really effective. I'm sort of feeling the ghost of Turner's fighting Temeraire. They're like ships.
That's generous.
Well, are they ships? Are they buildings? I mean, how are you negotiating them?
They do have a real scale to them. That was one of the bigger challenges. So I kind of tried to bring the clouds in at an angle as well, just to kind of exaggerate the scale.
It's quite an abstract painting at the moment.
I want it to be truthful, but not literally what's there.
Cool.
What areas do you need to work on next?
The rigs are still a bit odd, because there are actually 3 masts over there, and really I've only got 2 and a blur.
Artistic licence.
Artistic licence. Well, maybe I'll.
The judges can't count, so you're fine.
Maybe
They're not here for their numeracy skills.
Are they not? No.
I think you don't need to worry, because there's supposed to be 3 judges and there's only 2 have turned up.
Thank you for that.
At this point in the competition, the opinion of those 2 judges is crucial.
Well, what a tough job you have. The standard is really high. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think we did a good job as judges in picking these 7. They all seem very comfortable.
There are a couple who've had moments of panic, but most of them are quite controlled and they're focused.
OK, let's consider them one by one. Well, David is here with his flock of darling daughters.
Yeah.
How's he doing?
He has never, ever done a seascape before. That's quite something. But, you know, fortunately, he's been able to find elements that he's familiar with in the view today. You know, you've got a very mechanical, urban scene.
Funnily enough, the structures look huge because the tide has gone out, so it's constantly evolving. And I think for somebody like David, who works reacting to tones and colours, it might be a bit too much for him.
Patsy's is very spacious, isn't it? With really very few brushstrokes.
I think Patsy's been through an epiphany since winning the heat. She's trying to paint in a very, very different way to normal, and I think she's achieving that.
And at the moment, what I'm seeing is a very sort of restrained, cool rendition, very beautifully balanced composition, but I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to be happy with what she does.
OK, now, James.
A good traditional painting of what we're seeing in front of us. But what really excites me about James's work is the perspective, the way in which he's used the platforms to give a sense of depth on what is essentially a very small piece of board.
I just love the way James puts paint on. I mean, it's got that luscious quality, but what I'm worried about with James is because of that sort of wristy, loose application, he's simplified those ladders and it doesn't capture those platforms as I experience them.
Fujiko, it's the detail that makes her work so outstanding.
Exactly. And I think Fuji's at a really difficult place at the moment because it's hard for us to read it. She works in planes. Everything will be sliced up in a slightly abstract way. Her work won't make sense until the very, very end, I don't think.
It's very abstract and a strange design, but I think it's very beautiful.
Gary's opening gambit, which is always to cover his canvas with totally inappropriate colours, completely foxes me.
Although I have to say, I thought it was very beautiful. I wanted to lick it rather than hang it on a wall. From a fanciful point of view, I really love the colour combinations and I quite like the abstract nature of it.
My only concern is that we're not getting these dinosaurs as much, or the character of the dinosaurs.
Kathy is working in a lino cut.
She had the lino in a sort of horizontal rectangle and she'd drawn in the whole landscape and then she changed it.
So what we've got now is something that's much more brutal. She's got in there. We won't know exactly what it's like until we see the pull at the end, but now at least she's got the right composition, I think.
Now, Sue is our wild card who's made it to the semi-final and she's holding her own, and even more, perhaps.
She's approaching this landscape as sort of various sort of abstract structures and colour planes, and it's just beautiful to watch her work her way through. It looks very interesting at the moment.
But I think if she's going to give us that much sea, I need to see more richness, more texture, rather than these sort of abstracted lines and drips. It needs more reality, I think.
Well, it is the semi-final. You're looking for 3 artists to put through to the final. So what are you looking for?
We just want something interesting and surprising and great, you know, and going forward, somebody who, when given the commission, will not be fazed by it.
They're very measured about the sense of competition. And I wonder whether the second part of the day, it starts to kick in. You know, this is a competition. I've got to get 4 others out of their little pods.
Yeah.
Well, they're all being very polite anyway at the moment.
Yeah.
Perhaps it'll get fierce. I don't know.
Bit of colour's gone in on that big structure.
Like a couple of lifeboats.
And the boys.
And the boys. This morning there were loads of greys and I was thinking, yeah, I need a little bit of colour, and that really stood out. But I think the key is not to put too much in there, like overdo it, because if you put too much in there, then nothing stands out.
Fujiko, what's going on over here? Because we've got colour here.
I've rubbed most of it off, but this was the masking fluid. So when I take some bits off, it creates almost graffiti-like feel scratch, almost like a scratched image.
This is quite detailed, isn't it? It's almost like an engineering drawing. It's so exact.
I wanted to add a bit of grit, so I've just tried to make it a little bit grunge.
And that will be the only landscape part that puts in an appearance.
There's a little bit of land.
Yes, give us a little bit of land, because it throws into relief this monstrous human contraption.
It needs to balance it out a bit.
It does. It will be lovely. Lying 40 miles north of Inverness, Cromarty's deep sheltered waters provide perfect conditions for shipping. And in the early days of the Industrial Revolution, Cromarty was a hub of international trade, importing coal and iron ore. It was also a centre for hemp production. Raw hemp from St. Petersburg was spun into sacking at the local factory and shipped to London, where it was used in the West India trade to pack cotton. The boom in the local economy funded the construction of elegant Georgian housing. But by the mid-19th century, the Industrial Revolution had gathered speed. Britain was on the move, but Cromarty was left behind.
From the 1800s, as the road networks developed, bridges were built over the main rivers, and a whole network of roads developed further inland. Cromarty went from being a thriving commercial town to being what one visitor called a miserable place in the last stages of decay.
This once wealthy port descended into poverty, and for over a century became an obscure backwater, until a discovery off the coast of eastern Scotland changed the course of its history. In 1970, British Petroleum struck oil in the North Sea, and soon afterwards an oil rig construction site opened at the village of Nigg opposite Cromarty. 2 years later, the first North Sea oil rig, Highlander 1, was floated out through the Cromarty Firth. But the industry is notoriously unpredictable, and over the past 4 decades, the people of Cromarty have seen its rise and fall at first hand.
When the oil industry is in downturn, the Cromarty Firth becomes an area for parking oil rigs relatively cheaply. So the more rigs in the Firth, the less drilling for oil there is out in the oil fields. So it's almost a barometer of the oil industry.
With the current trend turning to renewable energy, and with 50% of construction at Nigg now offshore wind turbines, Cromarty's fortunes may well be on the rise once more.
There are just 30 minutes to go, and our 7 semi-finalists need to use the remaining time wisely to bring their artwork to life. The weather's been a challenge all day, but for one artist, the tide is turning in their favour.
Kathy, the lino's coming off very easily. Has that got something to do with the heat?
Yes, that's the sunshine now here today shining on it, so I don't have to use my iron, so it's actually brilliant. It's cutting like butter.
So you'll be able to catch up in a funny way because it's warmer?
Yes.
Just want to put a few of these reflections that honestly were there earlier. So if I can get the idea that the water is watery, I should be very pleased.
I've struggled a bit with the detail of the rigs. Keep scraping it off, putting it on, and kind of doubting myself. Hopefully I can pull it together.
I feel like the texture I have going on, like the slightly scratched kind of speckled feel, is what I wanted. I don't think it will be totally finished, but I'm trying to draw as quickly as I can.
On the dramatic shores of the Firth of Cromarty, it's a critical moment for our 7 semi-finalists. Their 4 hours are nearly up, and with only 3 places in the final, there's no margin for error.
The rigs are very skeletal at the moment.
They are. I've gambled. I've decided to gamble on looseness. I'll try and get away with suggesting them because I don't want to draw attention away from the overall feeling. It's like walking a tightrope. I feel as though I have something here and I don't want to kill it, but then again, I don't want to be a coward.
Courage, my friend, courage.
I'm not going to do a great deal now. There's one little bit that's annoying me up there, and then I'm going to sit and look at it.
There's a few bits I'd like to have done differently. Got a little teeny strip of land, just not the mountain behind.
Artists, you have 5 minutes left.
Lovely. I'm shaking now. I've only got 5 minutes left.
might need help laying paper.
No, I'm very happy to. Shall I go to where you are?
Yeah.
Because I can't. Oh, God. I can't help you with this, I'm afraid. It's going to freak me out. So if I hold these and you just pull it off.
1, 2.
Yes.
Good flat.
Hey.
That is really well inked.
Great.
I feel like I've given my all. It's in the hands of the gods or the judges, as I know.
Artists, your time is up and your semi-final challenge is over.
Please put down your brushes and step away from your artwork.
The light, it just changed so much throughout the day, and I've kept them to rework the sort of columns and the frames. But I'd like to think I've done enough. I mean, I've given it everything today.
With the semi-final challenge over, the judges evaluate all the finished artwork.
We've had a good day, haven't we?
Really good day, really good day.
But it was a difficult one to work with. There's a lot of information out there. But, you know, I'm looking at David's scene here, and he's absolutely, you know, captured what it was like today, and there's a certain sort of blusteriness in his brush work.
I do question the positioning of the boats. Now, I know they were there,
Yeah.
but they just tipped the picture into being a little bit too sweet.
What I do like about David's inventiveness is that it's just a jumble of abstract marks, but it really gives us a sense of the complexity of that bit of engineering out there.
Patsy was really intent to do something that was completely different to her normal way of approaching painting. You know, it's got a volume to it, but she's made everything also very beautiful.
I was worried about Patsy's reticence because there is a weight to that out there. But what I always like in an artist is when they show me something that I wasn't aware of. And as I look across the water, I would have never seen yellow. And then Patsy's shown me, no, there is yellow there. And I'm suddenly seeing it through a new lens. And that's what I want an artist to do, is open the world in a new way for me to discover. So very slight, but very well constructed.
Yeah. For me, what James managed to capture today is a sense of otherness with these structures. They are so weird, they are so strange if you've not encountered them before, and he's got that. And he's also coupled it with a really nice sense of distance.
Works with quite large brush marks, so when I'm standing in front of the painting now, it seems rather crude.
Mm-hmm.
But as I step away, you do get that menacing broodiness of these giant structures, and that space, for its size, it packs a punch.
So Fujiko's almost taken us down to the bulrushes. I know that she's using that device of the grasses to sort of push us further back, but I wonder whether it doesn't take me slightly too long to get to the platform. She's given us an element of something that it's really hard to understand what it is, but the whole structures are weird, and she's captured that.
The surface of her drawing has what I feel those structures have, a sort of a decayedness and a sort of the sense that the end of the industrial age, and she's caught that very beautifully. I love Gary's use of colour. I like the way he works. He doesn't take sort of route one, he sort of goes around the houses, and then you get these beautiful accidents happen where sort of colour leaches from the back as he approaches the correct colours.
I love the fact that he stayed true to his principles as a colourist, and he wanted to push it, but it's as if he's been a bit too heavy-handed, like it's not as polished as his work that we would normally see. I'm so glad that Cathy decided to change her composition in the end. You know, as a lino cut artist, she really needed to get in underneath that structure, and she's gone much closer to it. And here she's been able to revel in all the detail of the structure itself.
And you get the size and the height of these towers and the huge sky behind it. So considering she was an hour behind, I mean, she really has pulled it off.
Yeah. Don't you just love it when one of our wild cards manages to come through and produce something that stands really confidently in amongst everything else today?
I love Sue's inventiveness, the way she uses paint and layers it and drips it and is able to create textures.
She hasn't given us an exact depiction of the surface of the sea, but she's given us a sense of the currents and the flow of it by the washing over of that brush.
Maybe she ran out of time or something happened here when this is so interesting, inventive, to then, it's quite crude, this, isn't it?
She's a very urgent, frenetic artist, and I think that gives her work an energy.
But only 3 can go through to the final.
I think that artist wanted to be brave today, and I think that delivers.
Yeah. One on the right, I just love the inventiveness and of the paint application.
Well, we're happy with that one, aren't we? Going
Yes,
through?
yeah.
Happy with,
That
I
one,
think, this
that
one.
this one.
And I'd really like to see this artist again.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Artists, congratulations to each and every one of you. You've together created a marvellous collection of seascapes.
It's never easy for the judges to choose just 3 to put through to the final, and you certainly haven't made it any easier for them today. But they have reached their decision. And the first artist to reach the final is Patsy Moore.
And the second artist chosen to go through to the final is Fujiko Rose.
The third artist to reach the final is Sue England.
Our commiserations to the rest of you. Each of your work has been distinguished, and we hope you've enjoyed being with us today. Thank you all very much.
What's just happened? I don't know. I can't absorb this at all. What a compliment. I feel like a little girl, which is ridiculous at my age, but it's brought so much joy.
Patsy practically had a spiritual awakening after the last heat, and she's totally reinvented herself.
And she's an interesting colourist, finding colours in this landscape that made a mood in a very restrained language. I thought that was extraordinary.
Really, really happy. In that process of trying to tackle things today, I found different techniques that I really like.
It was really about an artist responding to what she was seeing. Fuji was reacting to that and
Yes.
thought, how do I make marks that gets across what I feel about this today? I've never seen any work like it.
It's wonderful. Get through to the final. I can't really take it in. To know that what I am doing is being validated in some way is really encouraging and exciting, yeah.
Sue straddles figuration and abstraction. It's always a journey between these...
Like her brushstrokes.
Yes, like, where she's never comfortable. So that keeps her work alive and open to possibilities. The 3 that we picked had something more than just energy and focus. They were courageous.
3 female artists being courageous, I think that's something special to celebrate.
They're true artists in the sense that they use art as a vehicle to investigate something. And all 3 did that today.